What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time here on a Saturday afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. I am Britt Devine, joined by my normal weekend host, Mr. Tim Tasteful Tides. He of the Tim's Taters. Not sure if we're doing that today. And my man Will, my former NFL buddy. We used to do a lot of shows for football, a lot of the prop sites and all of that. But glad to be doing a show with you this weekend for baseball, Will.
Oh yeah, man. I had to put. I forgot didn't have my hat on. Forgot I had my glasses on, and our illustrious producer Devin and the crew has told me that these blue light glasses are awful for live. So believe it or not, I've been wearing these blue light glasses now probably a couple years, and I can only take maybe probably about a live show worth of like all these screens. Like eventually my eyes do start to like hurt and stuff. And like, if I forget to put them on, I'll go, 30, 45 minutes and I'll go, what? And I'll say, oh, these blue light glasses are literally saving my long-term vision. And so I just want Devin to know this show is special enough that I don't wear them for that hour of this show each day, just for you. And I'm kidding, but these do actually really, really help long-term. And I can tell now that I've been wearing them for a while, and I don't know how we got in a rabbit hole of blue light glasses right out of the gate. But Britt, I'm just happy to see you. Man. You got me flustered because I hadn't seen you.
We got a long show today, my friend. We got a long show today. The blue light glasses, all right, so they do reflect a lot. They're great for that. But you know what they're bad for, Will? On the show, we can see everything you're looking at on your screen. So don't be doing anything funny if you got them on.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, Tim?
Oh, not much. Good to see you both. Definitely great bet by you for the squad ride, Brett. Today it was the Mets first five, right?
The Cardinal, never the Mets.
Oh, the Cardinals first five.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah. Great pick by you. And so excited to break this slate down with you guys. I think there's quite a few different ways you can go today in both pitching and hitting. So it's going to be interesting to hear Will's GPP takes, and I think Britt and I are actually going to be pitching a different combination in cash today. So that's not usually the case.
Yeah, I want to switch to Will's hat real quick. So here locally, right? Every time I go to Nashville for the RotoGrinders parties, right? At Hattie B's, we get the hot chicken. There's a Dave's Hot Chicken. Is this like a brand? Does anyone know about this? It's a new thing that's opened up near me. I tried to go in there. I couldn't believe this. One chicken tender and a small fry, which I looked and it was like a handful of fries. They wanted $15 for one chicken tender and a small fry. And I turned around and walked out of there. Am I cheap, guys? I know my wife tells me I'm cheap for not trying it. But has anyone heard of Dave's Hot Chicken? In the chat, let me know if it's any good. Is it worth paying an exorbitant amount for one chicken tender and a small fry?
That better be one chicken breast and a small fry.
No, it's just a tender. I was looking around and it looked good, but it was one. I don't know. I couldn't stomach.
Britt, is this where you live or is this in Nashville?
No, this is in Syracuse, New York. There's a Dave's.
Oh, in New York. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Where you live. Rashid Grant says worth it. $15 for a small fry and
one chicken
small
tender.
Fry and one chicken tender. I don't know. Because my wife, we were out and about a little bit today. Back where we grew up, we go to these like local country festivals, and they have like elephant ears, funnel cakes, fried Oreos, fair food, basically fair food. And my wife refuses to buy fried Oreos because she can make them at home. And I said, well, dear, we buy other things like chicken tenders that we can make at home and fish and, pancakes. She said, yeah, but I can buy a whole pack of Oreos for $5 and they're charging us $5 for 3 fried Oreos. I said, you got a point there. Now, listen, I'm way more frugal than my wife is. Trust me. But she will not. She refuses to buy fair fried Oreos, and hers are actually really good, so I totally get it. Another rabbit hole. 7 games, folks. Trust me.
Everyone knows fair food is at least twice as expensive as it should be, probably 3 times as expensive, especially here at the New York State Fair when it rolls in. I guess this is a baseball show. We're here to talk some of that. I got another bet for you. The odds have changed from what I posted on Scores and Odds, but we'll get to it a little bit later in the show. Tim, let's start off. We've got a pitching debate today. Who is your single pitcher site? We've got FanDuel. It seems like Aaron Savali looks to be pretty. It's against the White Sox, and we just saw a couple in his last start. Who was it? Chris Paddock, who's also going today, struck out 10 Chicago White Sox. And if Chris Paddock can strike out 10, imagine what an actual pitcher can do. The White Sox are, they were never going to be as bad as they were to start the year. They're regressing a little bit positively, but it's still not a good lineup. Do you prefer him or do you prefer Dylan Cease, who's the guy I'm on? I just like the absolute pure strikeout potential from him. I think it's a lot purer. I know it's a tougher matchup against Philadelphia. I will note, if you guys are bat subscribers, the bat is very down on Savali compared to the field and other people today. That is a red flag. I don't know what goes into it. Cardi has the secret sauce behind it. I just wanted to know that. I'm on Cease personally. Where are you today, Tim, for cash?
Yeah, so for a single pitcher site like FanDuel, I think it's down to two choices for me. It's one choice for cash. It's Aaron Savali. I think it's the clear top option for cash games. I really like Jordan Hicks though at 8,600 on FanDuel. I think that's a really fair price. I think that he's got a really good shot at the win. He's got a really good shot at a quality start. I think that price is just really, really, it's great. So I think you could conceivably play Hicks in cash games, but you don't have to. So Savali is my cash game option on FanDuel, and then I would pivot down to Hicks maybe in larger field or single entry contests.
All right, I just like Cease, just the pure. He's been absolutely filthy this year. I don't care who he's going up against. I'm expecting, 6-7 strikeouts at a minimum. There's upside for more today. I think he's my preferred option up at the top. Doesn't cost you too much more. I'm not going to fault anybody for using Savali. His strikeouts are up a little bit this year. That's what the Rays do. We'll see if it sticks. I would expect it to in this game. It's just I just think Cease has the ability to have that 10+ strikeout game today, and I'm going to be backing him on both sites. Tim, cash DraftKings, you get two pitchers. Now, I'm on board with Savali on DraftKings, right? Because you have to roster two.
Mm-hmm.
He would be my number two. I'm also paying up for Cease. Are you doing double premium, or are you going with Hicks or somebody even cheaper?
Yeah, so like you already talked about, huge discrepancy, like a bigger discrepancy than I could have imagined between the bat and our RG projections with Savali. But I'm sticking with Savali in cash at 9,100. And then I'm not going to pitch Cease. I could totally get what you're doing. I think it's fine. Paying 9,700 because you're right. We talked about a pre-show. There's so many solid cheap bats, but I'm going to go with Kirby or Hicks. It's going to be one of those two for me in cash. I prefer to pay up for like another couple bats, I guess. So I'm leaning towards Hicks at 7,700, just slightly under, in terms of projected fantasy points, just slightly under guys like Kirby, guys like Cease and Savali. And like I said, a great chance at the win. I think it's a very, very, it's one of the safer matchups on the board. And I just think the price is way too cheap.
Yeah, Kirby against Arizona. Kirby is a pitcher I generally want to use at home. He is at home today. You're not worried about those Arizona bats? I mean, they're off to one of the better starts this year.
Yeah, and I do want to just throw in there, like, there are other options at pitching today. Like, you by no means have to put yourself in what I'm doing. You don't have to go Savali Hicks. You don't have to go like what you're doing. You don't have to do Savali Cease. Like, there are other solid options, in my opinion. I think, guys like Chris Paddock at 6,900 in tournaments is a really solid play. I think even Jose Soriano at 7K. So, I mean, I'm sure Chief will talk about that stuff, but I mean, there are really good, pitchers in that 7K price range. So it's not a slate where there's any must-have pitchers.
Chief, what's the tournament pool look like today? Who's up at the top for you?
I'm rolling with Dylan Cease, just because, just my personal preference. I trust him a lot more than the other guys. Now, I'm more of a mass multi-entry player for baseball than I am probably any other sport. Well, football too, but baseball, I mean, I'm almost exclusively mass multi-entry. Very rarely will I play just single entry. And so I do really like Cease today. I'm glad you guys mentioned Soriano. I'm not all the way in with Soriano, but I think for tournaments, even on a single pitcher site, he's got a shot at 8,100. Now, you look at the season numbers so far. There's some strikeout stuff there. I am a tad bit afraid of, what's going on with lefties this season. On the season, I mean, he's only got 18% K rate, 30% to righties, and he is walking a fair amount of bats. And that's something that did translate from last season as well. And he will see his share of lefties. So I'm not thrilled about Soriano today by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think in tournaments, even on a single pitcher site, or even on FanDuel, let me say that, he can be used for salary relief. I don't like Chris Paddock. I think I'm more of a believer that Paddock was a prisoner of the moment. So I'm going to give him another start.
White Sox, that's all you got to say. So that backs up Savali, but all his big game, every stat he has came from that one game.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not. If he comes out and has a stellar outing against the Angels, then I'm just going to throw my hands up and say, "Hey, he got me." But his full body of work this season suggests that it was a matchup with the White Sox. Now, look, we've seen pitchers not on the White Sox. So I see Butthole Jake is saying if Chief is off Soriano, then I'm on him. I'm actually playing Soriano, so I guess you want to take the fade there. Butthole Jake is if that's your philosophy. But in terms of Paddock, I'm not playing Paddock. So Butthole, I guess Paddock is your guy that you may want to actually play, because I will be playing some Soriano. If that's your perspective. I'm with Tim on George Kirby on FanDuel at 8,700. Just mixing him in as well. He's definitely a guy that I think could do a little bit of damage, but not in the strikeout department, more so run limiting. I don't think he gets more than 5 strikeouts. Could be 6, could be 4, but I do think he can limit the runs because he typically doesn't walk a bunch of guys. And if Babbitt was on his side today, he could go 6 or 7 innings, 4 or 5 strikeouts, maybe give up a run, and possibly get the win. He should be in contention there. But all in all, I've got a really tight pool. Not playing Carlos Rodon. Ranger Suarez has been a guy that I've taken some shots on. Not playing him tonight against a lower strikeout San Diego team. And I am playing some Aaron Savale. So Cease, Savale, George Kirby, Soriano. Those are my guys on FanDuel.
So what about Hicks? I know Tim was on him. What's the tournament lookout for Hicks tonight?
Yeah, I'm not playing Hicks. I think Hicks is just okay. I don't think he has more strikeout upside than Soriano today. And so that's kind of my great divide. So he gets a pass for me on FanDuel.
All right. Anything else, Tim, you want to talk about at pitching? We'll have to see. Is it RotoGrinders? Is it the bat? Is it me versus you? Who's going to win tonight? We'll find out a little bit later. But any of these other guys you want to maybe throw a dart on in tournaments? A Morton, if I'm looking at the optimal rates here, Morton's not really popping. Maybe Tanner Beebe at Atlanta. That's pretty scary. Nobody's going to be rostering him, but at least from the opto percentage, that's a pretty healthy percentage increase.
Yeah, we got a couple questions in the YouTube chat about Suarez, if he's too expensive for his projection. I know that he's been pretty solid this year. I would not play him at 8,900 on DraftKings. I don't know where you guys stand or if where Chief stands on DraftKings for 8,900. I think he's too expensive, and I don't really like that matchup. So for me, Suarez is a no. And then really all these other guys that we haven't mentioned, kind of these like Bobby, Saccone, Ross, Perez, Cannon, they would all be X buttons for me. So other than maybe I'd sprinkle in Morton because he's relatively cheap, but I'd rather play Soriano. I'd rather play Hicks, so he kind of falls to the bottom for me. I'd rather play Paddock and save the 1,000 over Morton. Where do you stand with Suarez Chief on DK at 8,900?
Yeah, I'm fading him on both sides. I don't think there's nearly enough strikeout upside for him today at this price. So he's getting the automatic fade for me. I will say this. I want to go back to something because on DraftKings, I do have a slightly more expanded pool. So like DraftKings where Hicks is 77, he's in my pool on DraftKings. I'm just electing to fade him on FanDuel to get a little bit more concentrated. But on DraftKings, I'm pretty much going full lock button on Dylan Cease, and I'm rotating everyone around him for what it's worth. So Savale, Kirby, Hicks, Soriano, and I am playing Paddock on DraftKings just because I think he's slightly too cheap. I'm not playing him on FanDuel because I don't want to risk it. But on DraftKings, I feel a little bit better about it. I still think it's fool's gold, but at 6,900, if he gets me 12 points, I'm not gonna feel bad today. So that's where I am on DraftKings. I was close on Morton, Tim, but the strikeout upside, even at 7,900, I just prefer to play Hicks or Soriano and try to keep my pitching pool concentrated. And I don't dislike Morton because he's obviously a guy, if he's on, he can go deep into the game and get ground balls and stuff like that. But Cleveland, man, overall, I still think they're a low strikeout team, and Morton's getting a little older, and so I just select the fade. But just so you guys know, locking in Cease, Savale, Kirby, Hicks, Soriano, Paddock. That's my pool on DraftKings.
All right. Before we get into some offense, I want to tell you guys about RotoGrinders Premium. If you like things like Lineup HQ right here, if you want Plate IQ, all the other fun stuff here, you got to have RotoGrinders Premium, and there's never been a better time to sign up for it. With NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, and MLB, we've got an option for you. Whatever level you're looking for, you can get a 6-month combo subscription and an exclusive price of $469.99. That's a savings of $250 instead of buying it monthly. You can get your first month for just $40 off for a limited time. And those that want a test run, you can dip your toes in. 3-day pass, $19.99. Get access to everything here at RotoGrinders to take a look behind the curtain. All right, let's go real quick, Chief. Offense in general before we start going position by position from tournaments. We don't have the Mexico City. We're not playing up in the sky. We're not going to get 45 runs.
Is that game at 20 runs yet, by the way?
No, it's only it's 3 runs in the bottom of the second. I took the under 17.5 when I saw that this morning. So either way, where are we looking at for offense tonight?
So for me, there's a couple that I thought kind of jumped off the page, if you will. One of them was Tampa Bay against Cannon. I'm not afraid of Jonathan Cannon in any stretch of the imagination. I actually like both sides of the Yankees-Brewers game. Going to side more with the Yankees, obviously, but I do think both sides are okay. No secret, I like the Atlanta Braves. And then in terms of this one, I'm going to consider sneaky because they've been so bad. But I think the Mariners against Ciccone could be a big time stat. Like that's probably one of my under the radar ones. I'm probably going to have way more exposure to than the field. I know, on the surface they've been striking out a ton, but I mean, I don't trust Ciccone as far as I could throw him. So the Mariners are one of they're like top 2 for me today in terms of stacking against pitchers. All
right, let's go position by position. Tim, real quick, catcher. You probably don't need one on FanDuel. Let's go right to DraftKings. We're gonna have different builds. I think you're gonna have a little bit more money than me. What do you? Yeah. Are you looking up to spend up, or are you in the Gary Sanchez, Austin Wells tier, sort of like me?
I did just want to say one thing about FanDuel catcher. I think it's kind of strong today. So maybe not quite for cash games, but I think it's pretty close. So I did want to just touch on that really quickly. I think a guy like William Contreras is viable. Same thing with Ryan Jeffers. So I just didn't want to, and Cal Raleigh at 3K. So yeah, I think really all 3 of those guys you could hypothetically play in cash games, but generally you are right, Brett. Not something we had to spend a lot of time on cash, but definitely in tournaments, those guys are viable. Same three guys on DK: Contreras, Raleigh, and Jeffers. They would be my favorite three catchers. I think if you want to go down, Ben Wortfett is 3K for Tampa Bay, so I think he is my favorite punt. Gary Sanchez is pretty close as well, but I think I prefer getting to the Rays more. So if you want to spend 3K, I think it's Wortvet for me. You can go up and you have the extra 1,000. I would go to Cal Raleigh or Ryan Jeffers.
Which one between those two? Because that's sort of the mid tier. If you had to pick one of those,
yeah, between Raleigh and Jeffers, I think it's Cal Raleigh.
Dean's trying to get some inside info for his little tournament lead that he's taken there. In the YouTube chat, he wants to know what you're going on. I saw Dean on Twitter having himself a nice run in whatever the DraftKings series, something that they're running over there. Congratulations, Dean, on that. But yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute. Chief, yeah, tournaments. Catcher is wide open. It's pretty interesting. You've got the cheap plays. You've got Raleigh or Jeffers. You've got Contreras, which I think he's pretty cost prohibitive on this slate, especially when you look at some of the names you have in the outfield or some of the other positions that you might want to play. Are you getting to him? Are you preferring the mid tier, or are you going all the way down to the bottom?
A little bit of both. While I may not be getting a whole bunch of Contreras, I do have some. I think, even at 5,400, I think he's worth the money today. I don't trust Carlos Rodon either. I do think he's been getting better, but I still think Contreras has a shot at a multi-home run game today. Cal Raleigh, that's not a secret. He is one of the highest projected catchers right now, especially on DraftKings. But once again, I want to go back to something to just echo what Tim said for tournaments. Like, I would not be ignoring your catcher selections on FanDuel tonight. I think that's a mistake to ignore, especially you got a guy like Raleigh at 3K, batting third against Ciccone. Once again, he's one of my favorites just because I like the Seattle team. But catchers in general, we got a fair amount of guys batting in the 3, 4, 5 range today in some pretty good spots. Same thing for Gary Sanchez. I mean, he's batting fifth against Rodon as well. He's pretty cheap. So those types of guys, I definitely think you need to be getting them into your lineup. And I don't even mind playing Mitch Garver on DraftKings at 3,800. He is at the bottom of the order, but once again, I don't trust Ciccone here. So I really like this Seattle squad, and I actually really like the catcher position. So I've kind of spread out to answer the question, Britt. I do have some Contreras, probably have a few more in the Raleigh to Austin Wells range, Gary Sanchez range. I've got a little bit more exposure to them, but I've got some of it all.
Someone in the YouTube chat wants to know Joey Bart against Hicks. Tim, you're on Hicks. Bart, I think he's having a reasonably good season so far. Well, I don't know. He's very far down my list of catchers today.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer Sanchez or Wortvet. So Bart, not for me. I'm very high on Hicks.
All right.
Matt Tice has made my list also. Like, I'm playing some Paddock on DraftKings, but Tice at 2,700. I meant to mention him specifically. Like, he has made the list.
First base, Tim, I don't know if we're going to differ here. We've got the Rays, Austin Shenton, very cheap, 2,100 on FanDuel, 2,000 minimum on DraftKings. This is allowing me to play my double premium starting pitcher today. I think it's a pretty nice cost saver on both sites. Does he fit your builds for cheaper pitching, or are you spending up a little bit?
No, I'm definitely fine with going with Austin Shenton. I think a way of getting different also would be to play Isaac Paredes on FanDuel at 3-3. If you played him at first instead of third, I think that would be a different way of building a Rays stack, because it would get off, and then fading Shenton would be a way of getting to a different type of Rays stack for GPPs. But in cash games, Austin Shenton is completely fine. I also don't mind Alex Kirilloff at 2,800 on FanDuel. And then if you want to spend up, I don't think anyone's going to be playing Matt Olson today. No. Even though the You think they're going to be popular? Will Olsen?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Like he's not getting nearly as much ownership as I thought he was going to get in the spot.
Right. Yeah, like the Braves are one of the best stacks on the board, but I don't think they're going to get a ton of ownership. So getting to a guy like
only
Olsen,
Acuna's going to get it, and that's
about it. Right, exactly. So
can I say something here, Tim? While you're on Matt Olsen,
sure.
since you're settled there, I was actually shocked that he didn't have like ownership through the roof on FanDuel today. Like I don't understand that at all. I mean, he's under 4K. I don't get it. So I'm with you, Tim. Like on FanDuel especially, I would be loading up here. I mean, absolutely loading up. Sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought it was important to talk about this FanDuel price. This is crazy.
Who else you looking at, Chief?
Oh, Tim, did you have anything else?
No, go ahead, Chief. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, on FanDuel, Matt Olsen's on my list. I do have some Reese Hoskins. Once again, this is just me kind of playing the game here with Rodon. And then I do really like Anthony Rizzo against Ross. I think Rizzo's starting to heat up here. You mentioned Kirilloff already, who I really like. And I think somebody asked a question about France. I like France today. He's really cheap on FanDuel at 2,700 as well. He's also 3,500 on DraftKings, so pretty reasonable there. Whereas the difference between Matt Olsen on DraftKings and FanDuel is 5,900 and 3,700 salary distribution in terms of how much salary he's taking up percentage-wise. A lot more on DraftKings today. Also, one other guy I want to mention on DraftKings specifically is Wilmer Flores. Now I know typically Perez keeps the ball on the ground. Flores definitely a possible pitch hit candidate, but at 3,800, I think it's worth the risk for a guy that has historically had some pretty good power against lefties.
Yeah, he's 2,400 on FanDuel too at first base.
Yeah.
If you can, that's a nice swap off of Shenton from a tournament. I think Shenton's going to be pretty popular.
I was just going to say that exact same thing, Brett. I think Flores is a really good pivot off of Shenton in GPPs.
Let's go to second base, Tim. Edward Julian topping the RotoGrinders projections. A reasonable price, good batting order. I know Soriano has a little bit of strikeout upside, but Julian's had a pretty good amount of pop so far this year. He's reasonably priced. Is that the guy you're going with? On FanDuel, you can go cheaper. There's quite a few options at second base cheap. You can choose between, I believe, Josh Rojas and is Brandon Drury. Is he? Yeah, Brandon Drury's second base. He's 2,500. How are you handling that position today?
I'm probably going Julian on FanDuel and DK. Well, I'm definitely more likely on DK. I'm still up in the air about FanDuel.
I got Rojas. I'm staring at Rojas on FanDuel.
And I also think Jorge Polanco, 2,700. I think he's batting in the 5-hole. I think that's fine in any format. So I really have no issue with Polanco also. Rojas, like you said, fantastic play. So, and then I think in tournaments like Xander's 2,900. So I think he's a good play for GPPs. On both sites, Curtis Mead is extremely cheap. The Rays have the highest implied team total on the board. So you can get him batting in the 6th hole on the road. So I think he's fine for all formats as well. So there's plenty of value on both DK and FanDuel.
Chief, before we talk tournaments at second base, I want to remind everyone if they could click the like button on the YouTubes, we would greatly appreciate it. Chief, second base tournament pool. Julian, really high ownership, I believe, on both sites. How are you handling that? And then I don't know. I think it's pretty wide open for a 7-game slate. There's pretty much every position is wide open tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Getting some Julian. I don't think I need to ignore him. But I am for sure loading up on Polanco today. Once again, I can't say enough how much I love the Seattle stack here. Getting to Josh Rojas as well. He's a guy that I like. I'm also, and this one, I'm going to go back to this is going to be more so FanDuel. Like Xander is just a little bit too cheap here. Like I'm with Tim. Like at 2,900, I don't need him to, hit 30 home runs. I really just need to drive in a couple runs and maybe get driven home. Like he picks up 12 fantasy points tonight. I think I'm going to be feeling fine, even in tournaments. Now, look, do I want the 30 fantasy point performance tonight, Tim and Britt? Obviously, but I don't need 30 points from everyone every night, and so I do think he's a little bit too cheap. I think Gleyber Torres batting in the 7 hole at 2,500 on FanDuel is a little bit too cheap as well, especially for tournaments. He's a guy that I have my eyes on FanDuel. On DraftKings, still playing some Julian. I'm playing Angel stacks against Paddock, so playing some Brandon Drury. Still playing Polanco, even though he's a little bit, taking up a little bit more salary on DraftKings. Don't really care. Playing some of him. Obviously playing Ahmed Rosario. I can get him at second or outfield on DraftKings. Really like him. Rosario's had a really nice season so far. So at 4,600, he's definitely a guy on my list. Tim mentioned Curtis Mead. Love the Curtis Mead call at 2,600 on DraftKings. Really cheap there for a guy to get into those raise stacks, where on DraftKings you got multiple raise almost at every position. So you can really mix and match how you want to build this thing, and you should be able to get different enough.
All right, let's go to third base, the hot corner. Tim, you mentioned Paredes, someone I'm targeting on both sites. I think he fits pretty good on FanDuel, third base, first base, third base utility on FanDuel. You're probably going to want him on your cash teams today. As he make the cut for you on DraftKings as well.
Yeah, on both sites, he's going to be my cash game third baseman. I think that's a pretty easy call. He fits both builds on both sites. Josh Rojas, we already talked about. I think he's fantastic play. He's third base only on DK, I believe. Yeah, he's only which kind of stinks. But definitely, like if you don't have the money for Paredes, I would play Rojas, but I would really prioritize getting to Paredes, in my opinion, for cash. But tournaments, Rojas is a fantastic play. I'm looking kind of down the board here, and Jose Ramirez, Austin Riley, like these pay-up options are going to go completely unowned. So getting to them as one-offs, I think is completely fine, even if you don't want to stack the Guardians or stack Atlanta. So I think those two guys would be your kind of GBP one-off type plays. But yeah, it's going to be Paredes and then Rojas if you don't have the money.
Chief, what's a tournament dispersion look like at third base?
Yeah, Matt Chapman, big time tournament play for me today. 2,900 on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings he's 4,600. Obviously, once again, I know FanDuel price is a little bit more soft feeling like that today, but did want to highlight him. I mean, this guy's historically hit lefties pretty well over his career, and once again, I know that Perez is a guy that typically doesn't get blown up, keeps the ball on the ground. But I'm not afraid of Martin Perez. He's going to see his handful of righties tonight. And so I think Chapman, obviously makes the list for me there. Can still get Rojas. Josh Rojas at third base on DraftKings at 3,100. So he's obviously a guy leading off that I like against Ciccone. And I'm with Tim yet again. Third base feels a little weak to me today. So you're getting Austin Riley at 58. You're getting Jose Ramirez at 5,900. I haven't really talked about a lot of Cleveland guys against Morton, but Jose Ramirez absolutely fits the bill for me there.
All right. Before I get to shortstop, I want to tell you guys about SimLabs. Let's see. SimLabs is the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs. It's now available for NBA, PGA, and MLB. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest you're playing and get access to SimLabs with an RG premium subscription, which I believe I told you about earlier in the show. Make sure to check it out. A great way to make lots of lineups very quickly that have a very good chance. I don't know. It's MLB DFS. Anything can happen, specifically in baseball. But it's a great tool. Helps you make lineups real quickly. Lots of ways to vary it. Make sure to check it out. All right, let's get to shortstop. All right, let's see. Tim, cash. Neto from the 9-hole, not as interesting. Neto from the 2-hole, much more interesting to me. He's very cheap on both sites. The problem is there's also a couple other cheap guys, and maybe you want to spend up at the position as well. Probably not as much for me, like Trey Turner against Cease at 6,200 on DraftKings. Even if he was 5,200, I know he's been a hot hitter over the past few weeks, but I think that price is at least $1,000 too high today. Neto, very cheap on both sites, probably my main target.
Yeah, Neto's completely fine. I actually think I'm going to be targeting Willie Castro, batting 6th. I have absolutely no issue with Neto. I could be way off here. Neto might be the quote better play, but I'm actually going to go with Castro. So I think he is far too cheap on both sites. He's very, very cheap on FanDuel. He's under 3K on DK. So I think if you want to punt the position, I'd go Castro, but obviously Neto is fine as well. If you have a little bit more money on DK, maybe a Willie Adames or an Anthony Volpe, but I can't get to guys like Turner or Machado. I don't think this is the position where I want to spend a bunch of salary on in cash.
Yeah, I agree completely. Chief, what's the tournament pool look like?
I mean, it's basically just built around all of my stacks. So some Milwaukee like Adames, Caballero, even though he's at the bottom of the order, Mid Rosario. This is FanDuel, by the way. FanDuel, getting Rosario there. Still playing some cheap Xander, mixing him in. A little bit of Willie Castro. But most of this is built around my stacks at shortstop today, and that's on both sides. So whatever I'm playing on DraftKings, I'm pretty even on FanDuel as well. FanDuel and DraftKings are pretty similar, just because I'm just building around stacks.
Yeah, shortstop's a very weak position, I think, which is why I think going cheap with either Neto or Castro looks very enticing today.
And can I answer this too? Because he did ask a great question, I think, and this was little Tanichi or Taneki, and I might be pronouncing it all wrong. It might be Little Tune Shy. So you can just spell it out for me like I'm 5 with the dictionary explanation. And he mentioned Wilmer having pitch hit. And you're right, it's not Wilmer. It's Austin Slater that has all the pitch hit risk. So we're good with Wilmer straight ahead. He should be fine the whole game.
All right, outfield. Tim, I think there's a lot of ways you can spend today. Let's sort of rank Acuna, Trout, Soto, Judge. Rank those for me in terms of cash game, needing them on your team tonight.
Yeah, so I'm going with Soto, and then I would go Acuna, and then I'd go Judge. That feels really, really, really strange. But I really like lefties against Ross. I think Soto's the guy for cash today. I know Judge is $200 cheaper. I personally am not going to be playing Acuna in cash at 6,600, but I mean, that's a fantastic GPP play. And if you want to play him in cash, obviously he's always fine. I'm just going to take the savings on what I think is a better play with Juan Soto. So I'd rank those 3: Soto, Acuna, and Judge.
What about Trout? Throw Trout in the mix there. Where's Trout end up?
I mean, I would put him. Man, I don't know. It's tough. I'd probably put him 3rd. Soto, Acuna, Trout, Judge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd probably have Judge at the bottom. I like Acuna. Acuna, Soto. Well, I don't know. Trout's been spoiler. My scores and odds. Other scores and odds plays. Trout over 1.5 bases. I got it at plus 120. It's down to plus 110. I don't think that's from the people on scores and odds betting it, but it could be. But I do like that one if you're looking for a sports bet that's a little later tonight. You can go. I still think the plus 110 is a reasonable price to pay for that against Paddock. Yeah, I'd probably go Acuna, Trout, Soto, Judge, and Judge. And all those top 3 are very close, and Judge is probably a tier below. So I think we're both ranking them late. What else are we doing for cash? Are there some cheap plays? Are you more in the mid tier? A guy like a Rosarena on FanDuel at 2,900 seems like you almost have to play him, even though he's having a pretty horrible season. The DraftKings price for me is probably a fade. I think I like a couple other players around that price tag on DraftKings, but the FanDuel one, very hard to overlook.
Yeah, totally with you on a Rosarena on FanDuel. Definitely. I like Max Kepler quite a bit on DK. He's 3,900. I think Alex Kirilloff is outfield eligible. Oh, and Kepler's 2,500 on FanDuel too. So definitely FanDuel and DK I like quite a bit. I like to get to Richie Palacios on FanDuel. He's way too cheap. Batting leadoff at 2,600 on FanDuel. So he's another punt outfielder you can get to. And I know everybody's pretty high on Cease, but I kind of like Kyle Schwarber in tournaments also.
Would you rather a Rosarena or Palacios if you have to pick one of those Tampa Bay outfielders trying to save a little bit of money today? Let's pretend you can only get one.
I would go a Rosarena. I think pretty easily.
The long-term track record. All right. Chief, what are you looking at? Any low-owned player? You can always find low-owned players in the outfield that have reasonable upside. Who are you looking at today?
Well, my boy Jorge Soler just keeps getting cheaper. The ownership keeps getting lower and eventually he's going to take some of these lefties deep multiple times. So Jorge Soler is top of my list yet again in the outfield facing the lefty. I like him a ton. Love Palacios' call. He's definitely a guy that is going to be getting played tonight. A guy, and this is a guy that's a part of my stack, but Mitch Haniger. I mean, look, man, I keep talking about it. I really like this Seattle stack tonight. Can't say enough how much I like them. And Haniger, very cheap. And so he's another guy. And we really don't have too much ownership on him either. So I like him a ton. I am okay with Max Kepler, just like Tim. If you Jack Sawinski, I know he's facing Hicks, but Sawinski's a guy that has hit for a little bit of power. So I don't hate him. Just kind of mixing him in as more of a one-off play. When I'm looking at Hicks here, I mean, he's walking lefties at, man, an incredible clip so far this season. So low K rate for Sawinski and a guy that I think could possibly have some RBI potential if things broke his way. Those are some of the low-owned plays on FanDuel and DraftKings. I think if I had one spend up, if a gun to my head, he said, hey, give me one spend up on the day, I think it's Juan Soto for me. At the top of the list if I had one big spin.
All right, let's get some questions, YouTube or the live stream chat in the RotoGrinders Discord. I'm looking at the Discord right now from Carolina Guy. Chief, I'm going to throw this to you. FanDuel, single entry. You got one stack. What's the team?
Seattle. No doubt about it.
See, and then you'd probably, even a larger field tournament in a single entry, you might be the only one on Seattle tonight. So that's a very good way to get different. Tim, let's pretend that's DraftKings. What would you be doing on DraftKings? In your single entry, Dean's looking for some inside info.
Yeah, so it'd either be the Rays or I think I'd go Rays or Yankees.
All right, Rosario's from Jerry Berg in the YouTube. He wants to know Rosario or a Volpe for FanDuel cash if you have to choose. I would probably take Volpe between those. Tim, would you agree?
I would agree with that, yes.
All right. I think you could also go to Neto. I know Tim's like Castro from Minnesota hitting 6. If you needed to save some money to upgrade elsewhere, I think those are also very nice options for cash games on FanDuel. Let's see. Everyone off Carlos Rodon. That's from ZY Wyatt. Chief, you mentioned you had none of him earlier in the show. What exactly has you off of Rodon today? That A start, he didn't have the strikeouts, but I was listening to that game and everything was soft contact, easy outs. I know we want strikeouts in fantasy. little bit tougher matchup today in Milwaukee. What has you off of him?
Yeah, I just don't like the fact that we're not getting the strikeouts, and they keep, he's typically priced Britt. Like, it's not like they're pricing him at 8K every slate. Like, even on this slate, Britt, he's 8,900 on FanDuel. I'm not paying that. I'd rather play George Kirby for a little bit cheaper, who, in my opinion, who isn't going to have the walks issue. You get what I'm saying? Like, I just think there's levels to this. And so if Rodon isn't going to give me the strikeout upside, then I need to be playing the other guys in the 8K range that aren't going to give me, the walks problems that he's had so far this season. So that's really all it is. It's really more about that.
All right. Daryl George wants to know Yahoo Cash, but this is a question. I think if anyone's missed some of the talk we've had earlier, Acuna or Soto, if you have one spend up in the outfield. I think both Tim and Will would take Soto. I'm on Acuna first, then probably Soto, and then Trout. But all three, I think all three are very viable. I wouldn't really, I would say all three of them over Judge for sure tonight. But I don't know. They're all pretty close. But I'm outnumbered 2-1 Soto over Acuna today. Let me see if I can get another one. We Major wants to know FanDuel tournaments. Chief, that's you today. Give me a couple of your favorite starting pitchers over at FanDuel.
It's going to be Dylan Cease. It is going to be Soriano. It is going to be Savale. It is going to be George Kirby.
All right. I know Tim will throw Jordan Hicks into that mix, I believe, as well. Let's see. A couple more. FanDuel lists Kirby as not starting. Has anyone seen anything on that? I haven't been checking the X.com. I think FanDuel has someone just saying Kirby not starting. Okay. But I don't. I haven't been on Twitter. Has anyone seen anything on that? Like he's not. He's actually not in the starting. You can't select him on FanDuel unless you go look for him right now.
Yeah, as far as I know, he is starting.
Let's see. Let me check do we call it Twitter or do we call it X now? What is it? It's always Twitter to me. Let's see. George Kirby latest. I don't see anything that says he's not starting today.
I'm looking at our internal Slack channels too, and there's nothing about Kirby being out. So
that would just be the FanDuel error.
And if he was really out, MLB.com would be updated right now. I can assure you.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Your favorite, Mr. Jenkins wants to know DraftKings second base Rosario or Albies. Chief, that's your buddy from earlier. Who you got?
I like Rosario today. I do like Albies, but I'm going Rosario here, man. I love this spot for the Rays.
All right, a couple minutes left. Again, if you're looking for a sports bet, I won the first one today on our squad ride. I haven't seen if anyone's doubled down on the squad ride. Mike Trout sitting there, plus 110. We can run that back. Total bases over 1.5. Mike Trout. That's one of my favorite bets of the day. Let's see a couple more. Just trying to see if we've got any other questions. I do want to give out one quick tater that I'm going to put a small amount of American dollars on. And that's right. Josh Rojas plus 550 to hit a home run. He's also plus 500 on DK. So there are books that have him at 550. DK has him at 500. All right, let me see. I'm trying to pull up the absolute best line for everybody. I'll show everybody. Let's see. Mr. Josh Rojas. You can get newsflash plus 800 on FanDuel. Everybody go to that right now.
Wow.
That's a good one. I see a couple 650s. I see a 550s, but the 800 on FanDuel, the taters, Tim, you have convinced me. I'm going to follow you into that one without question. That's way too high for Rojas, who's hitting well, leading off. Probably, a reasonable chance of 5 at-bats today, you would say, correct?
Yeah, that's great. Plus 800. That's awesome. I don't have access to FanDuel.
Fine. I'm always mad at the people who have Bet 365. When
Right,
you don't
exactly.
I'm always mad at the people who have sportsbooks. I don't, and I'm sure they're mad if like I have Fanatics. I think they're most places. I always want the sportsbooks I don't have, right, Tim?
Right, exactly.
And Chief, you just want the sports books. You don't how's the can you still do, I know in New York the player prop sites, I can't do those anymore here in New York. Are you still able to do all of that?
Yeah. Still rolling strong. I kind of took the weekend off, just hung out with the fam, I had some stuff to do. So I didn't really do too much prop stuff today. Obviously I'll be back rolling in the prop streets tomorrow. But listen, man, when I unplug, I have a good time. Came on, did some DFS. Tim, I for one am going to have a great dinner tonight. I've got what we call a seafood boil here. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's like crab or crab legs, corn, potatoes, sausage, typically in some type of a garlic butter sauce, and boiled eggs. It's like something we do here in the Southeast. They do it all across the country too. But I've got a version that I'm going to have tonight. I've got me an elephant here with some cinnamon sugar and apple topping that I'm going to enjoy. And I'm going to have a good time. There's going to be a party going on from a food perspective in the Chiefs household.
That sure beats my bowl of goulash I had right before the show here. What's Tim having for dinner tonight?
I'm actually having tacos.
All right,
pretty excited.
Tacos is good. Yeah,
you guys have trounced me in the dinner game tonight, so congratulations on that. With that, we're gonna get out of here. Go get that Josh Rojas. And guys, this is what we're talking about. Jason from YouTube. I just bet Rojas to homer. If he does win, I'm subscribing to the site. That sounds like a good thing to do, specifically at that plus 800 on FanDuel. It doesn't take much to get on there. So thanks to Jaron for that. And always gotta get the best lines on home run odds. The home run odds, Chief, I don't know if you probably don't look at them as much as I do, but Tim, they generally, the Rojas one looks really good tonight. They generally don't. Last year, I remember we used to look at them and we could come up with 10 home run plays on the show pretty easily. It's a lot thinner. They've reduced the odds this year.
Now that I can actually do it like legally, the odds are absolutely terrible compared to last year. It's not even close.
I absolutely agree with that one. All right. Let's hope for a Josh Rojas homer. For Will, Tim, and Devin, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we out.